You are losing control of your life without even realizing it. When was the last time you were concerned about politics, the state of the world, the financial system, whether it will rain, or about anything happening in the news? How is that connected to losing control over your life, you ask? Well, what do all of these concerns have in common? You can probably already guess, but before I tell you, let's look at habit 1 from 7 habits of highly effective people, and let's dive a bit deeper. And the first habit is the most important one, the foundation all the other habits are built upon. And it's absolutely crucial to understand it so you can use its immense power for yourself in your life. And I don't know if you know Viktor Frankl, but he was a Jew in a Nazi death camp, and he applied everything that we are going to look at while he was captive, so I'm sure you can do it in your life as well. So first of all, let's imagine a big circle. And this is your circle of concern. This is your circle of concern. Here are all the things that I just mentioned that you are concerned with. Politics, the state of the world, the state of the financial system, whatever's going on in the news, whether it's going to rain tomorrow or not, whether someone talked badly about you or not. All of that is in your circle of concern, things that you are concerned about. Now, a little bit smaller in that circle of concern is your circle of influence. And here are the things that you have direct control over, all the things that you can influence, like your attitude, your thoughts, your own personal healing journey, and things like that are in your circle of influence. Now, a huge issue, and the reason why many people are completely wasting their lives, is that they spend all their time, energy, and effort out here in their circle of concern. They think about what's going on with politics, they are worried about a new world war, they think about the energy system and how good the energy supply still is, they think about whether it's going to rain tomorrow or not, and they keep worrying about all of these things out here in their circle of concern, but they have no influence over that at all. They can worry as much as they want. It does nothing. Nothing good can come out of that, because all it does is that it creates more worry, more bad feelings, and they cannot influence that at all. Now, if you want to take control of your life, you need to focus all of your attention, energy, and effort, and most of your time spent in your circle of influence, dealing with the things that you have control over. Again, for example, your attitude, your thoughts, your behaviors, and all these kinds of things.
But Philip, my situation is different. Politics is so bad, and my boss is so nasty, and he has control over my life, and everything is just bad and goes down the drain.
Now let me stop you right there, and let me finally tell you about Viktor Frankl. In fact, let me read this paragraph from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because it's extremely powerful. It basically changed my life, and I'm sure it will change your life as well if you really understand it, because it puts things into perspective. His parents, his brother, and his wife died in the camps or were sent to the gas ovens. Except for his sister, his entire family perished. Frankl himself suffered torture and innumerable indignities, never knowing from one moment to the next if his path would lead to the ovens, or if he would be among the saved who would remove the bodies or shovel out the ashes of those so fated. One day, naked and alone in a small room, he began to become aware of what he later called the last of the human freedoms. The freedom his Nazi captors could not take away. They could control his entire environment. They could do what they wanted to his body, but Viktor Frankl himself was a self-aware being who could look as an observer at his very involvement. His basic identity was intact. He could decide within himself how all of this was going to affect him. Between what happened to him, or the stimulus, and his response to it was his freedom or power to choose that response. In the midst of his experience, Frankl would project himself into different circumstances, such as lecturing to his students after his release from the death camps. He would describe himself in the classroom, in his mind's eye, and give his students the lessons he was learning during his very torture. He exercised his small embryonic freedom until it grew larger and larger, until he had more freedom than his Nazi captors. They had more liberty, more options to choose from in their environment, but he had more freedom, more internal power to exercise his options. Can you imagine a worse situation like this? I am sorry, but whatever your concerns are, oh my boss, oh my family, oh my environment, oh society, is not nearly as bad as what Viktor Frankl had endured. And when I say this, I am not mocking you. In fact, I am thinking about my past self. All the excuses I used to come up with to stay stuck in my misery and not take the responsibility to finally take action and work on myself and do whatever I had and needed to do. But this story of Viktor Frankl changed that forever. Because in this situation, Viktor Frankl decided to put all of his focus on his circle of influence and not on a circle of concern. And his circle of concern were not politics or whatever else was going on, but it was torture. It was his family and friends dying. It was him not knowing if he would be the next going into the ovens. But he knew if he would put his focus on a circle of concern, he would be completely powerless and put himself out of control. So Viktor Frankl took his focus off his circle of concern and put all of it in a circle of influence. Like I just read, he imagined himself being in his classroom teaching to his students. He used whatever influence he had to put himself in whatever control he could put himself. Focusing all of your attention on your circle of concern can literally ruin your entire life. Habit 1 of 7 habits of highly effective people is being proactive. And an essential part of being proactive is taking responsibility for everything that's going on in your life. Now, you're not responsible for it being there, but you're responsible for dealing with it. Responsible meaning response able. Just like 7 Habits puts it. Look at the word responsibility. Response ability. The ability to respond. Highly proactive people recognize that responsibility. They do not blame circumstances, conditions, or conditioning for their behavior. Their behavior is a product of their own conscious choice, based on values, rather than a product of their conditions based on feeling. Again, you are response able, always. As Viktor Frankl so famously said and realized in the Nazi death camps, between stimulus and response, man has the freedom to choose. So let me ask you, where's your focus? How do you feel when the weather is bad? Or when people talk badly about you? Do you let it destroy your mood? Do you allow these things from your circle of concern to have control over you? To be in charge of how you feel or what you do? Proactive people won't let external circumstances control how they feel or behave, because they realize that they are response able for their own feelings and behaviors. Yes, you heard me right. You are responsible for your own feelings. And I'm sure by now this thought should be extremely empowering. Let's look at this again. What happens if you focus on your circle of concern? What will happen is that your circle of influence will shrink and your circle of concern will grow bigger because you subconsciously keep reinforcing that you have no control and you don't focus on anything that you have actual influence over. But when you focus on your circle of influence, your circle of influence will grow. You will be more in control of your life and of your circumstances, and your influence over whatever is going on in your life will grow, just as it did for Viktor Frankl. By focusing fully on a circle of influence, he did not only help himself, but he inspired all of his inmates and even some of his Nazi captors. So his circle of influence grew larger and larger and larger. Obviously, now you might say,
But Viktor Frankl was an exceptional human being. I could never do that.
well, luckily, you are not in a Nazi death camp right now. So I am sure if he can deal with that, you can deal with whatever is going on in your life and take control or responsibility. Because if you don't, the only alternative is that you will keep staying miserable. So at any time, your issues fall into one of three problems: direct, indirect, or no control. Direct is easy. Here you have direct control over your problems or issues. So you can just change your behavior, and by changing your behavior, you can change the issue and deal with the problem. Indirect means that you can indirectly control or influence others because they are the source of the issue. So for that, you just use different human influence methods or behaviors, which could be as simple as just talking to them. But that's what habits 4, 5, and 6 are about, which we'll obviously get to in this video series. And the last category is the one you should stay away from and never put your attention on again: no control. The book puts it like this: no control problems involve taking the responsibility to change the line on the bottom of your face, to smile, to genuinely and peacefully accept these problems and learn to live with them, even though we don't like them. In this way, we do not empower these problems to control us. And I personally love this diagram, which describes it perfectly. So obviously, first of all, do you have a problem? No. If you don't have a problem, obviously don't worry. But if you have a problem, then ask yourself, can you do something about it? Yes, you can do something about it. Perfect. Then don't worry, because you can do something about the problem. It's direct or maybe indirect, but you can do something about it. Fantastic. No need to worry. Can you do something about it? No. If you cannot do something about it, also don't worry. Because why? Worrying will not lead to anything positive. You cannot do something about it anyway. So the only thing that worrying will do is cause more negativity and reinforce that you don't have any control. So you cannot do something about it? No, then don't worry. Proactivity means fully focusing on what is in your circle of influence and not getting hung up on anything else. This is how you take full control over your life. Let's say you desperately want to feel happy and resolve and heal from your past pains and traumas. And this is all that you focus on. Oh, why can't I not heal my trauma? Why can't I be just happy? Why was it me who has been born in a family like that? Like this, you obviously focus on your circle of concern and give away all of your power and ability to change, heal, and do something about it. Instead, you want to be proactive and put all of your focus and attention on the daily habits and steps you can take to work on yourself and move toward healing and feeling better. And yes, that's hard work. And yes, it can take long. But the point is, you can take action, move forward, and feel better. On this channel alone, I got a multitude of videos with actionable steps that you can take on a daily basis. But are you really ready to change? Are you really ready to take action and move forward and put in the necessary work for weeks or months or even years or maybe even for the rest of your life? I know it's easy to be reactive, to focus on everything you are concerned with. That's where the quote comes from: easy choices, hard life; hard choices, easy life. Which one do you want? If you are ready to finally make hard choices and put into action, I would highly recommend that you get 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and work through it with me. You can find the link down in the description below.
But Philip, what if I don't get anywhere? What if I stay stuck? What if I fail?
Well, what if you don't? Or what if you do? Will your life be worse? I'm willing to bet it will be much better, because the mere act of taking responsibility and wanting to be proactive puts you in a much more positive mindset. And for a long time, I was under the impression that failure doesn't exist. But I've changed my view on that. Failure does exist, but probably not in the way that you think about it. 7 Habits puts it like this: the proactive approach to a mistake is to acknowledge it instantly, correct and learn from it. This literally turns a failure into a success. And this meme describes it perfectly as well. As you can see, proactive people use their failures to build their staircase to elevate themselves and build themselves up higher. Reactive people, however, they don't learn from their failures, they fear their failures, and they just let themselves being pushed down by their failures, not realizing that failing is an inevitable part of succeeding. Without failures, you don't learn and grow. It's just a normal, necessary part of life. But you know what real failure looks like? Staying stuck, not changing something, being in the same place next year as you are right now, giving up, not continuing, not even starting to be proactive, not taking action at all. Do you think Viktor Frankl would have regretted taking control over his life and living it on his terms if he wouldn't have made it out? Of course not. He still would have done the absolute best he could in the situation he was in. And no matter what situation you are in right now, it's time to do the absolute best you can to start being proactive and taking action like your future depends on it. Because it literally does. Once you have made this decision, you are well on your way to a better life. The next question now is how to exercise your proactivity in the best and most meaningful way possible. For that, it's imperative to understand yourself, your own character, and your own deepest values on a very, very deep level. And that's exactly what the next habit, habit 2, is about. You can find out more about it and work through it with me together in the video right over there. It's definitely my favorite habit.